The Future of American Business in South Africa, Sunday at 11:45.
1969, the year of the impossible dream, and a black cat comes across the path of the Chicago Cubs. The Mets, 9.5 games back, rely on Tom Seaver, who won 25 and his first Cy Young Award. Seaver and the Mets, stunning the baseball world and beating the Cubs. 1985, the heir apparent to the mantle of Tom Seaver. Dwight Gooden has won 11 in a row. Once more, the Chicago Cubs are up against a Mets ace.
NBC Sports presents the Major League Baseball Game of the Week. Today from Shea Stadium, it's the Chicago Cubs versus the New York Mets. The Game of the Week is brought to you by light beer from Miller, everything you've always wanted in a beer, and less. By AT&T, in long-distance services, information systems, telephones, and computers, AT&T is the right choice. By Ford, who invites you to drive the new Ford Escort. Have you driven a Ford lately? And by Kentucky Fried Chicken. We do chicken right.
On a hot, humid Saturday afternoon in New York, it's the Chicago Cubs and Ray Fontenot visiting Shea Stadium to face the New York Mets and Dr. K, Dwight Gooden. Hi, everybody. I'm Vin Scully, along with Joe Garagiola. The New York Mets with Gooden have won 5 straight, 11 out of 13, and they're really on a roll.
Just listening to you say that, I'm thinking to myself, what if the ball players heard it? What would the reaction be? Here are the Cubs over there saying, who's going to play, how many guys we have healthy, and if we are healthy, we have to face Dr. K. The Mets are over there thinking, boy, if we can get 2 runs for this guy, we'll win it, because they are on a roll. In Montreal, they set a team record for most hits in a 9-inning game. Last night, they had 16. Hernandez is hitting like we know Hernandez can hit. 5 for 6 the other day. Mets got to feel good.
And meanwhile, Jim Fry's going around counting healthy players. His starting pitchers have lost 25 turns in the rotation. That includes yesterday, where Dennis Eckersley came up with a bad shoulder. Dick Ruthven was rushed into the breach, and what happened? He was hit on the foot and had to leave. So the Cubs are going to be dodging the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, and the Mets will have Dwight Gooden. We'll have the lineups after this.
The following message is furnished by Major League Baseball in cooperation with the Players Association.
You know, on every pitch, I have less than 1/3 of a second to make the right choice. That's why I would never abuse my reactions. That's a game-saving decision. As a teenager, you also make decisions, and one of these can be life-saving. Don't let drugs ruin your ability to make decisions.
Take a big leaguer's advice.
Make the right choice. Say no to drugs. Baseball cares about you and your family.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's NBC's Game of the Week. I'm Gary Carter, and I'll give today's Cubs lineup. Leading off will be Bob Denier playing center field. Playing left field and batting second will be Davey Lopes. These 2 guys we definitely got to keep off the base paths. They're the key to their lineup. Hot-hitting Ryan Sandberg will be batting third and playing second base. Leon the Bull Durham batting fourth and playing first base. Keith Moreland, their 5th hitter, will be batting 5th and playing in right field. Jody Davis, with 2 home runs last night, will be doing the catching and batting 6th. Chris Spire will be playing third base today and batting 7th. Larry Boa, the shortstop, batting 8th. And Ray Fontenot will be doing the pitching. Enjoy the game today and have a lot of fun.
Here's the defense for the Mets. Foster will be in left field. Strawberry is in center field. He's been carrying a hot bat. Pachorik is in right field. Ray Knight, Gartenhire, Backman, Hernandez is at first base, and we'll have to keep an eye on Hernandez, whether he's in foul or fair territory when he's holding those runners on. It seems like they made a special case out of Hernandez. Carter is the catcher, and Dwight Gooden is on the mound for the Mets. And to quote Hernandez, Gooden has just been simply awesome.
Well, a definition as we look at Davy Johnson of awesome. The numbers for Dwight Gooden, first of all, he is 17-3. His 17 victories equaling his total output of last year. The last time that Gooden lost a game was the end of May when the Dodgers beat him 6-2. He has won 11 straight to eclipse the 10 straight of Tom Seaver back in 1969. So Dwight Gooden going for a little water to load up, and then he will take on the Cubs.
Hernandez, before the game, said he has never seen a stopper like this kid has been. He said Andahar with the Cardinals pitched well, but for all season, he has never seen a pitcher like Gooden. And he's been able to get his curveball over from what Hernandez calls the get-go, and his fastball just on the outside corner to right-hand hitters. He is in such a groove. So if he's in that groove today, we're liable to see something.
Indeed. He is the third National League pitcher to have won 11 straight. Lamar Hoyt won 11. Andy Hawkins won 11. The longest winning streak of the year belongs to Yankee Ron Guidry, who won 12 straight. Every time you look at Dwight Gooden's numbers, you find something interesting. For instance, his earned run average, as great as it is, against the Cubs, it's much better than that. Against the Cubs, it's a little more than a half a run. Now, with 17 victories, he has Joaquin Andujar ahead of him. Andujar is 18-6. He has 5 shutouts. He has John Tudor ahead of him. John has 6. But Dwight leads the major leagues in strikeouts and an earned run average.
They were talking to Jim Fry before the game, and one of the writers, I guess trying to make Fry feel better, he says, you know, Gooden doesn't have quite as good a record in daytime as he does at night. And Fry said, what's his record now? And of course he said 17-3. He said, does that mean he only strikes out 8 during the day?
Well, this is the only 3 losses. As you can see, the Cardinals and Andujar beat him. Lamar Hoyt beat him, and Fernando Valenzuela. So he has only lost to the high rent district. And of course, with his complete games, he has as many as the combined staff of San Francisco, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh, 11.
And what you love about the youngster is his poise. I said to him, what is your ambition in life? He says, to hit a home run. And I said, if you do hit a home run, what will you do? He said, I don't think I could finish the game. I'd be too excited.
I don't believe that. And we'll show the folks a little bit later on about how calm, cool, and collected he can be in a brief knockdown matchup in Montreal. But that's later on. Right now, we'll concentrate on the game. It is also each side of the coin. The Cubs have lost 5 straight. The Mets have not only won 5 straight, they've won 11 of 13. Ray Knight playing in on the grass at third, and Denier starts it on ball 1. Denier hitting .246, 15 RBIs, and Jim Fry says he is still bothered by that sore foot. Ground ball to shortstop. Up with it there is Ron Gardenhire. Low, dug out by Keith Hernandez. Gardenhire, of course, has been on the DL, so he's a little bit rusty in coming back to short, but he got his man. 1 away. Davy Lopes coming up. Lopes, a remarkable player, has stolen 41 out of 44, and he's bothered by an Achilles problem. But he's playing, and is he ever? Look at his numbers. Fouled away. 0-1.
Against a guy like Gooden, you really have to try to manufacture things and hope that you can take away from his concentration. What I mean by that is if you get people on, you might run them, play hit and run, hoping that you do get a break with maybe a stolen base or a first and third situation to where he might think, yeah, I better hold them on a little closer and worry about the base runners.
1 ball, 1 strike. The Mets have done a number on Lopes. The prime aim of Carter and company is to keep Lopes off the base paths. He has only 1 hit this year. against the Mets. And this is the 13th meeting between the two teams. Now back. Another turnaround by the New York Mets. Last year, they could only win 6 games of 18 against the Cubs. Going into this game, the Mets have already won 9 out of 12, and the crowd smells strikeout. One ball and 2 strikes. He missed with the curveball, and the count 2-2. And another curveball got him looking.
That's the curveball that Hernandez is talking about. It's an overhand curveball. There's really not a whole lot you can do. You can see the stride, and you just can't pull the trigger because that fastball that he has, coupled with the curveball, it's just obscene.
When he struck out Vance Law last time out, Keith Hernandez referred to Gooden and said he would have gotten Ted Williams on that pitch. And here is Ryne Sandberg. Fouls it away. 0-1. Sandberg getting the Cubs off on the right foot 5 times this year. Sandberg had been fighting a slump. He was 0 for 15, but he came back with 3 hits last night. Hitting .291, 15 home runs, 40 runs batted in. And it's rare. It's only the 3rd time this year he's hit in the 3rd slot in the Cub lineup. Bang, base hit into left center. Over to get it is Darryl Strawberry. So Sandberg, a 2-out single. Of course, in looking at a shaken up Cubs lineup, they've had 80 different lineups in 106 games.
Number 10, first baseman
Leon Durham coming up to face Dwight Gooden. Durham is more of a long ball threat at Wrigley Field than he is on the road. He has 11 home runs. He has hit only 7 home runs on the road in the last 2 years. And he has had some muscle spasms in his back of late, but Fry says he's okay. Right. Durham has hit Gooden very well, almost 400 against him. 0-1 to Leon. Sandberg at first with 2 out, just the start of the ball game. And he goes the other way, over the head of Knight for a base hit. On his way to 3rd is Sandberg. Into 2nd goes Durham. Sandberg, a big turn, but he got back, and the throw is finally blocked by Carter, who fed to Hernandez at the plate. Ryne Sandberg apparently with a lack of communication there with Don Zimmer for a second.
Sandberg had intentions of coming all the way around. Zimmer was up the line, had the stop sign put up, but Sandberg picks it up late. You can see that he dives back in. The throw gets away from 3rd baseman Knight, but Carter's backing it up like he should be and gives it to Hernandez. Durham was really handcuffed with that fastball, swung late and just blooped it into the opposite field.
So with runners at 2nd and 3rd and 2 out, Keith Moreland is the hitter. And Moreland, perhaps the most consistent of the Cubs since opening day. Very steady right fielder. And first base open, and Jody Davis on deck. Moreland is the #1 Cub in picking up guys in scoring position. So let's see what the Mets do. They will pitch to him. Sandberg at 3rd, Durham at 2nd, 2 out. Fastball line to center, base hit, and that's good for 2. Durham coming to the plate to score. Down to 2nd goes Moreland. 2-0 Chicago. A little surprised they pitched to Moreland.
Well, I'm more surprised, Vin, that he gave him such a good ball to hit on, especially the first pitch. It looked like a fastball right down the middle, like he was going to try to get ahead of him. I mean, it wasn't to the outside nor the inside part of the plate. It was right down the middle, and he just wraps it.
So they pitch to their #1 man. They give him a good pitch to handle, And it's to be expected. A line drive single to drive in 2. Moreland taking second on the throw. And the Cubs lead 2-0. Jody Davis coming up. Jody hitting .237 with a dozen home runs, 44 RBIs, hit 2 last night.
Now, he shouldn't get a good ball to hit with first base open. If he wants to hit him, I'd make him widen the zone.
Fastball in there. Chris Spire is on deck.
Jody Davis and Johnny Bench had a conversation about Jody's hands, and Johnny Bench said they were just in too close to him. He's got to get them back farther, which you see he has.
And he's hit 3 home runs in his last 2 starts. Foul back, 0-2. Jody, when he homered last night the first time, it marked 500 hits in his career. A milestone for him. In the inning, Dernier grounded out and Lope struck out, but Sandberg singled, Durham doubled, Moreland singled him in, and the crowd wants another strikeout with a count 0-2 to Jody Davis.
Put yourself in Jody Davis's shoes if you were the batter. Davey Lopes was called out on strikes on a big curveball after he threw him a high fastball. You certainly can't guess with 2 strikes. And yet, if you don't, how are you going to hit it?
The old story is you got to look fastball so you can adjust on the curve. 1-2 fastball. The check at first, no swing, says Fred Brocklander. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
If he throws him that Lord Charles right now, there's nothing Jody can do but just tie his shoestrings a little tighter.
2-2, the count of Jody Davis. Cubs leading 2-0 in the first inning. Breaking ball lifted to right center field. Strawberry calling that he has it, and he does. However, the Cubs get 2 runs on 3 hits, leave a man at the end of half an inning. Cubs 2, Mets coming up. Here's the Mets lineup. Wally Backman opens up at second base. Tom Paciorek makes a start in right field to get an extra right-handed bat in there. Keith Hernandez at first and Gary Carter behind the plate. Darryl Strawberry in center field. George Foster in left. Ray Knight at third, Ron Gardenhire the shortstop, Dwight Gooden the pitcher, and the Mets will be facing left-hander Ray Fontenot. Fontenot, 4 wins and 6 losses, 1-2 against the Mets this year and lifetime. The last Cub pitcher to pitch a complete game was Scott Sanderson on the 30th of June, although Fontenot has gone 8 innings twice. So it's a big load given to a starting pitcher to try and give the Cub bullpen a rest, and it'll be Backman, Paciorek, and Hernandez. Backman with an 8-game hitting streak. Ball 1.
Especially tough inning, too, because the Cubs, Fontenot really has to keep the Mets from scoring this inning. He can't let those 2 runs that the Cubs scored get answered. He's got to shut him out here to pick up the ball club.
He's basically a low ball pitcher, high foul or first out of play. In fact, no doubt in the Mets dugout throughout the afternoon as he pitches, the people in the bench will be hollering to the hitter, make him bring the ball up. He likes to live downstairs below the knees. He'd like you to swing at a pitch out of the strike zone. 1-1.
He doesn't have any trick pitches, and he'll be around that strike zone all afternoon.
Durham shortens up at the bag. The same for Spire at third. The outfield shaded to right, and a bouncer by the mound to the left of Boa. Larry has it and gets him.
And here's the defense, the outfield with Lopes, Dernier, good speed. Moreland, whatever he can get to, usually holds on to, but Dernier covers a lot of ground. Left side with Spire and Boa. Well, got some age over there, but you saw Boa make a good play on the ball hit by Backman. Sandberg, Durham, Davis behind the plate.
Tom Paciorek grounds one to the hole, backhanded by Boa. Off balance throw, too late.
It was a close play. Boa really ranged far to his left, surprisingly. And he backhands that ball and gets off a good throw. Makes it a very close play.
So Peshorek, an infield single, and that will bring up Keith Hernandez. An excellent play by Larry Boa. And here is Hernandez. Hernandez, with his good numbers, had a 5-for-6 game against Montreal, and in July he's hitting .392. He has been blazing hot in July. Ball one.
Not to belabor the point, but remember, it was that long game in Atlanta that got him started, and it was his dad in California watching the game when he said, "I just never saw your numbers from the center field camera shot, so you're not turning enough," and you'll see him. There it is.
1-0 to Keith Hernandez. And that's a strike. 1-1.
I said to Keith, "Did your dad watch the game that day?" He said, "What a dumb question. There's nothing keeps my father from watching the games when we're on."
Yeah, he bought his dad a dish for the backyard that cost $4,500, and he's already gotten it repaid, becoming the player of the month in July. By the way, the first Mets player of the month since Kingman in 1975. That's a strike. 1-2. And he's even doing better than that in August. 1-2 to count to Keith Hernandez. Peshorek at first with 1 out, and on deck, Gary Carter.
Go, Keith.
Peshorek doesn't figure to do much running, and Leon Durham directly behind him. Last night, and that's always my pet peeve anyway, it cost the Cubs the game by having Leon Durham on the bag. Fouled away. So many times we keep pointing out the fact that a first baseman is on the bag against someone who can't run. And last night, Leon Durham held the corner on pitcher Roger McDowell. And Dykstra hit a ground ball. It's otherwise an out. It's into the outfield. McDowell moves into scoring position. Backman single picked him up.
Fry's thinking for that was they were expecting Dykstra to be bunting at any time, and he was protecting more against the bunt than he was the run, and got burned.
1-2 the count to Hernandez. Way inside. 2-2 to Keith. 2-0 Chicago in the first inning.
There were 2 outs in that game last night. With Dykstra, he's liable to bunt with 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 outs. It doesn't make any difference with him.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Breaking ball hit foul down the right field line, out of play. I'll say one thing about the Mets. They are unaccustomed to coming from behind with Dwight Gooden. Gooden allows 2 runs in the first inning. Keep in mind the fact he has not allowed more than 3 earned runs in a game all year.
Vin, not to belabor the point about bunting, but did not Pete Rose bunt against the Dodgers with 2 outs to
runner at third?
And Cedeno scores the winning run?
You got it.
I mean, you just can't take for granted because of 2 outs that you will not be bunting.
2-2. Ground ball to the right side. Sandberg to Boa to Durham, and they get the double play. So the Mets are gone in order, and at the end of the first inning, the Cubs 2 and the Mets nothing.
Number 28.
Second inning here at Shea Stadium in New York. The Cubs leading the Mets 2-0 with 2 outs. Sandberg singled. Durham doubled him to third. Moreland singled up the middle to drive in 2. So Dwight Gooden shaken up. Now has to pull himself together and go after Spire, Boa, and Fontenot. Fouled at the plate. 0-1 to count. Interesting, too, in Gooden's meteoric career. That's what it is. Only the 5th time in his career he's allowed a run in the first inning. Can you imagine that? And here we got 2 today. Ground foul outside of third and down the line.
And that includes on the playground, too.
On July 4th, the Braves got to him for 2 runs in the first inning. So it's really headline news to score against Gooden early like that. 0-2 to Spire. Fastball got him looking. By the way, his high this year, he struck out 14 Giants. So he now has 2. Take a look at that fastball.
Just threw it right by him. There's nothing you could do but just watch it go by. And Dutch Rennert behind the plate. I love umpires. Reminds me so much of Al Barlick when he was behind the plate. In the game, really booming out those strikes, and you can hear him all over the place. I love it.
The batter now, the switch-hitting Larry Boa, hits one off the glove of Gooden, deflected to Gardenhire, who can make the play. So Boa gets a base hit on a comebacker, and Ray Fontenot will be coming up. That's the 4th hit off Dwight Gooden.
Just couldn't get the handle. He looks like he's going to make the play here, but he can't really get a good grip on it, and eventually drops it. And now Hernandez is going to go in and talk to his young pitcher, because you have to expect Fontenot to be bunting the ball, and hopefully they can make the force at second base. Hernandez is a tremendous fielder. He'll come charging off the line.
Fontenot has bunted twice, and the Mets are expecting that bunt right now. Ray Knight coming in from third. Hernandez charging from first. The bunt foul back. 0-1.
What Hernandez probably did was to tell him, look, don't be throwing over to first base. Now he's going back to talk to him, because once he starts in for home plate, he wants to keep coming, and sometimes if a pitcher really they don't have it worked out, he's going to be thrown over there.
And remember, earlier this year, Hernandez broke to the plate. The pitcher threw to him. He was about 20 feet down the line, and they called balk.
They called a balk because it was deceiving the runner. Yeah, they changed the rule. In fact, the stance that Hernandez now takes is in fair territory, but he's off the bag. He figured out a way to get around all that. His stance right now, he's up the line a little bit. You can see where he is.
And that's an old stance. I remember Bobby Watson doing that when he was playing in Houston. You're really holding the runner on without being on the bag. The bunt foul back, and the count 0-2. You know, one other thing now, Gooden has 2 strikes on Fontenot, so the crowd wants to see another strikeout. But strikeouts have become less central to his success. A case in point, in his last 6 wins, Dwight has struck out more than 6 only twice. The big thing is his control has been incredible. 0-2 to Ray Fontenot.
It's the old story. You'd rather make 3 pitches for 3 outs than 9 pitches for 3 outs. I mean, you want to wholesale it any once in a while. Now, Fry wants to talk to Rennert behind the plate, and he's claiming maybe a balk where Hernandez in and out. He's not on the bag, and it's deceiving the runner. I think Benny's almost basing it on what we had just talked about, that previous
yeah, except
play.
of course they were talking about 15 feet. Now he's only about 4 feet. That's a thoroughly legitimate maneuver, as we understand it.
Started in and out, and that's the thing you talk to your pitcher about.
Well, the thing about when he comes down the line, if he comes 15 feet down the line, you can't possibly be making a play. That's why they called it a balk. When he comes 3 feet off the bag, you could still be making a play on the runner, but Fry wants to have a meeting with the umpires, and Rennert will call them all together.
Well, when he comes at 15 feet, the runner thinks he's throwing towards the plate anyhow, and what he's doing is throwing it to Hernandez, who's only maybe 20 feet from home plate.
Yeah, it would not appear that there would be any substance to the argument, since Hernandez is so close, or reasonably close to the bag. I mean, he's a matter of 4 or 5 feet at the most.
And there's one other sidelight to this whole discussion that's going on. I'm sure that Fry is arguing for a point, but he's also trying to break the concentration of Gooden. Gooden is in the mold of a Koufax and Marichal, to where you play against him as opposed to playing against the Mets. How are we going to beat Gooden as opposed to how we beat the Mets? And all these little things, these distractions, they all add up.
So Jim Fry has had his say in a losing cause. See, there's where Hernandez is. Now watch, when he leaves the bag, he's not gone very far. He could conceivably dive back at the runner. If he goes 15 feet down the line, that's another story.
Well, what it does, it prevents Fry from playing run and bunt. He can't start that runner on a play like that. You got to make sure, Boa does, that he really is going in to get the bunt.
0-2, the count to Ray Fontenot. 1 out, second inning. Cubs 2, Mets nothing. Gooden has been touched up for 4 hits already in an inning and a third. Boa doesn't go. The pitch high and away. 1-2.
Every time I see that play where it's a guaranteed bunt, I used to go out there and I'd say to the pitcher, just let up on your fastball so he can be sure to bunt that ball. We can make the play at second, and we get a guy to clog up the bases like the pitcher. As hard as he's throwing, he's going to either pop it up or foul it off.
1 ball, 2 strikes. Boa goes. The pitch is strike 3. The throw is on the other side of the bag, and Boa has stolen it. That's the 3rd strikeout for Dwight Gooden.
He really went into the bag hard. As soon as Hernandez took a step, it's a curveball. He picked the perfect pitch to go. You see the curveball. Carter had something on it, but the wrong side of the bag, and Boa really jammed his leg as he went in there. It's his left leg. You can see him calling time.
Boa, who has certainly given up some things to time, but nevertheless, he still has that good base running instinct. He's stolen 5 out of 6. So with Boa at second base and 2 out, Bob Denier trying to pick him up. We told you Denier's left foot is still bothering him. He wears a little plastic covering to protect the top of the left foot where he had surgery. Flinching on the curveball. See him turn away.
And Gooden is starting out with strikes as we look at the protective pad that Dernier is wearing. In fact, the first pitch has been a strike to 8 of the 9 batters that Gooden has faced. I mean, he is starting out ahead of him.
0-1. And another breaking ball low. 1 ball and 1 strike. Cubs 2, Mets nothing, top of the 2nd inning. Scary to realize he's only 20. Won't be 21 until November. Fastball is hit down the right field line, slicing foul and out of play.
And I imagine the Mets ownership is kind of glad that that arbitration went another year. If this kid goes to arbitration, he'd end up with Connecticut, Nebraska,
and all the land west of the Mississippi. By the way, isn't it a relief? Last Saturday, we were doing the game, sweating it out, and now here we are back in business. Thank goodness for that.
Yeah, glad it's over.
Gooden is a strikeout away of striking out the side, and he has the count 1-2 on Dernier. He's done it 25 times in his career. Curveball got him. He struck out the side. 4 strikeouts for Gooden, but at the end of an inning and a half, Cubs 2, Mets nothing.
When you start something good, everyone wants a piece of it. Take light beer from Miller. Now there's lots of light beers out there saying they're less filling. Heck, that was the easy part. The hard part is brewing a light beer that tastes great. That's why Light's always brewed only with the finest ingredients. To let all that great beer taste come through for guys like you and me. The taste that's made light beer from Miller America's favorite light beer.
Hey, I always thought it was an easy opening can.
An American tradition continues. In 1978, it was dubbed the modern-day shot heard round the world. Bucky Dent's 3-run homer helped clinch one of baseball's greatest comeback seasons. Next Saturday, the intense rivalry continues as the Yankees host the Red Sox or the Royals meet the Blue Jays. The tradition is here. The memories are waiting.
Bottom of the 2nd inning, the Cubs leading the Mets 2-0. Gary Carter, Darryl Strawberry, and George Forster in that order. Seeing Carter come to the plate, and we'll use the time now to set it up. The Mets found out something else about Dwight Gooden, and they found out about it in Montreal when Gary Carter had an at-bat up there. The game featured Dwight Gooden pitching against Bill Gullickson. But we don't want to get in the way of Carter's at-bat now, but we'll show you what the Mets found out about their 20-year-old phenom. 4-1. Carter could be headed for his lowest RBI total in the last 5 years. He has 54. Last year, he had 106 to tie Mike Schmidt for the National League RBI title. He has come awake and driven in 13 runs in his last 11 games, but he does have that bad knee, remember, and it has to hurt him. 2-0. Gary has been wearing out Cub pitching this year, hitting .340 against Chicago. Hot ground ball to third, off the glove of Spire, recovers to get him. Carter hobbling on the bad knee. Here's what they found out about Dwight Gooden. Gary Carter up in Montreal was at bat. The count no balls and 2 strikes, and here's Bill Gullickson's pitch. Look out. So now Dwight Gooden went to the mound. Gullickson came up, and look at this. And what was interesting, Gooden immediately went right back to work. There was nothing said. He came into the dugout. He said to Carter, "That was for you." Gary said, "Oh, great." He backs up his hitters, and that was that. I bet you knew of pitchers whom you would beg to knock down a hitter and wouldn't do it.
I'll not name him.
No.
But I'll tell you, I was with the ball club that we had a knockdown contest. I almost got into a fight with this particular pitcher and never did catch him again because he would not throw.
2 balls and 1 strike to Darryl Strawberry. Strawberry in the last month, he's hitting .333, 10 home runs, and of course he got 3 of them in 1 game, including a grand slam home run that we saw here on the Game of the Week. So he's been explosive. In the last 31 games, he's at 31 runs batted in. A line drive down the right field line and in the corner. Chasing it is Moreland. Darryl into second base and holding with a double.
He's in a groove. He was talking about it before the game when we were visiting, and you can see the stance. He's just right on top of the pitch. Good follow through. He's just in a groove. Moreland very carefully waiting to see what's going to happen, because if you get too aggressive playing that carom, it'll end up a 3-base hit.
So now you have George Foster, who earlier this year beat Fontenot with a grand slam home run. Foster with that .257 average. He had a 6-game hitting streak snapped last night. So Foster trying to pick up Strawberry with 1 out in the 2nd inning, 2-0 Chicago. High fly ball into deep right center. Dernier going back, away back. It's gone. Two low 5, and see you later, Charlie. 2-2 in the 2nd inning. And Rafael Santana does a dance with it.
Yeah, a home run now is getting to be an event, man. It looks like breakdance blues.
And here is Ray Knight. Ground ball to the hole. Backhanded by Boa. Off balance throw. Got him. Dug out by Durham.
Boa has shown great range today. He made a real close play on the ball hit by Paciorek, and he backhands this one. Spire can't come close to getting it. Look where Boa gets it, and 2 steps into the outfield, running away from where he has to throw to, and gets him in pretty good shape. Not that Ray Knight is going to set any track records, but it was a good play by Boa.
So Larry Boa coming up with his 2nd great effort, going into the hole at short. And Ron Gardenhire at the plate, taking ball 1, 1-0. So a 2-2 tie. We might have ourselves quite a scramble here today.
Hitting is so contagious. I mean, once Hernandez starts, everybody looked at. Foster woke up, Carter woke up, Strawberry started hitting.
You know, the Mets have been averaging 6 runs a game since early in July. They're hitting over 290 for a month. So 2 runs doesn't seem like very much to them right now. So they're all even 2-2. And there's ball 4 to Gardenhire with 2 out. And Dwight Gooden will be coming up.
That's a doubly tough base on balls because now you got your pitcher up there, and it's a bonus even if he doesn't get a base hit because you lead off with your leadoff man next inning.
Nothing like getting your pitcher out of the way. So here is Gooden with a runner at first, 2 out in the second inning, a 2-2 tie. He was dreaming of home runs on that swing.
I tell you, you got to bear down on him because he concentrates as much in the batter's box as he does on that mound. He doesn't say, well, I'll go up there and get out of the way. He wants to get himself a base hit.
Ground ball hard to third. Spire the short way to Sandberg, and they get the 4th. But the Mets get 2 on a double by Strawberry and a home run by Foster. 2-2 at the end of 2. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
Tonight, the 60s reunion rolls on with Karen Valentine, Leave It to Beaver's Ken Osmond and Barbara Billingsley, Tab Hunter, and the Mamas and the Papas. It's our time tonight.
The future of American business in South Africa, Sunday at 11:45.
I'm a foster child. Well, what do they say? Victory has 1,000 fathers and defeat is an orphan. So I can understand that as George goes to his position. 2-2 in the 3rd inning. I would think about 90 miles away down the road in Philadelphia, taking things easy for the moment, are Whitey Herzog and his band of St. Louis Cardinals. They'll be playing Philadelphia in a doubleheader. Danny Cox and Jerry Koosman, the former Met, in one game. Kurt Kepshire and Kevin Gross due to go in the other. If the Mets, leading by a half a game, win today, if the Cardinals swept the doubleheader, then the Cardinals and the Mets would be in a dead even tie. Davy Lopes. Half swing for a strike. Remember, Lopes struck out in the 1st inning.
Called out on a curveball. In fact, of the 4 strikeouts, 3 of them have been with the curveball 3rd strike. Only Spire with the fastball.
High chopper up along 3rd. Ray Knight with plenty of time to get him. Talking about the Mets, they are in 1st place, a half a game in front of the Cardinals. The Cubs are in 4th place, 10 games behind the Mets. Of course, the Cubs have been decimated by injuries. If you can imagine a pitching staff that has lost 25 starts in the rotation. Dennis Eckersley is not here. He went up to Boston last night. He was to be examined by Dr. Arthur Pappas today in Boston. And the Cubs are waiting for the report. Ball 1 to Ryan Sandberg. We were hearing horrendous reports of how hot and humid it was going to be in New York, but the weather has broken. It is a lovely day here. So that will not be a factor today. Oppressive heat perhaps taking something out of the pitchers. 2-1. Sandberg followed by Durham. 2-2, top of the 3rd. Look at that rise in the standings. Like to own stock to go that way. Fouled away.
Gooden, in addition to his great stuff, is another one of those pitchers who for a split second will take his eye off the target. And if you don't think that's distracting to a hitter, you think about it. He can throw around 90 miles an hour and he's not even looking at you all the time.
Well, with 2 strikes, the crowd comes alive again. Remember, he has 4 strikeouts in the first 2 innings. Breaking ball, but he missed with the curve. 3-2.
Here's his delivery. Watch his eyes as he gets ready to. He's going to be thrown, and right there, looks away.
Fastball is lifted to center. Strawberry has a bead on it. Well, with the possibility of a strike and then 2 days off, doing a little reading about baseball. Some of the great American authors have written about baseball. And how about this line from William Saroyan? He said, 2 events are supremely beautiful, the strikeout and the home run. Each is a difficult and unlikely thing, flawlessly achieved before your eyes. And we've seen them both today, the strikeout and the home run.
You really think that a strikeout, Saroyan notwithstanding, is as beautiful as a home run if you're a hitter?
No, each one is beautiful, flawlessly achieved. And I think this crowd, they were thrilled over any strikeout Gooden gets, and you heard the noise when Foster hit one out. Are you messing around knocking Saroyan?
Well,
ground ball to third. Ray Knight takes care, and that's that. A very quiet third inning.
I'll come back and give you the thought.
The Deems Taylor will return, but right now 2-2 at the end of 2.5. Or is it Bennett serve? And all of that is next Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, although I doubt if it will be flawlessly achieved. Little nubber up along third base goes foul. 0-1.
All right.
All right.
Saroyan says the home run and the strikeout. I want you to take a survey of Lopes, Dernier, Spire, and Fontenot and ask them if they thought it was flawlessly achieved.
Well, when Lopes was caught looking at that curveball off a strike 3, he had to go back to the bench and say, Mr. Fry, that was flawlessly achieved.
And Fry said, I'm going to flawlessly achieve you. I could think of a... It sounds beautiful, I guess. Davey, it was flawlessly achieved, but you flawlessly achieve enough and you'll be in another league.
Bottom of the third inning. And Wally Backman followed by Tom Paciorek and then Keith Hernandez. 2-2 in the third. I don't know what you're going to do. I got a Thomas Wolfe quote later on.
I didn't realize that Saroyan was writing about me when he was talking about that. Flawlessly achieved. Thomas Wolfe yet, huh?
Yep, that's later. 1-1.
I'll give you a Roger Wolf one.
Okay. 2-2 tie. A little roll into third. Spire kind of side-arming that one over to Durham, 1 away. And the batter will be Tom Paciorek. Got a few years of experience on the left side of the infield, whether it is Boa and Say, Spire and Say, or this combination, Spire and Boa. I mean, they can talk about some old times.
Yes, they can.
With 1 out, here's Paciorek. Paciorek was telling us an interesting thing. Now, here's a guy with the White Sox who is cut loose and winds up with the Mets. And in this day and age, players' contracts are always important. And you want to talk about the cat swallowing the canary. Paciorek has a stipulation in his contract. He has an attendance clause. Now, that's inside ball, too. Now, the Mets have inherited an attendance clause based on the Chicago White Sox. And the contract said, okay, Paciorik's going to get X number of bucks if the White Sox draw over $1.8 million. High foul down the line, drops untouched. Okay, $1.8 million. That's still in the contract. As of today, the Mets have drawn $1.7 million. Now, today, this crowd in this ballpark will push him over $1.8 million. Everything over $1.8 million, Paciorek says, thank you very much.
He could conceivably be paid on the, what, $3 million? They could draw $3 million.
Now, you want to talk about a propitious plan.
Boy, that was propitious. I'll tell you that. And it was also very smart.
A promise of added emolument.
Whoa.
That's what Branch Rickey used to say. Ground ball into left field, and Paciorek can forget about the attendance clause for the moment. A 1-out single. He's 2 for 2. And the batter, Keith Hernandez. Hernandez hit into the double play in the first inning. He's 0 for 1.
Your turn now, Keith. Your turn.
2 runs, 4 hits, and no errors for each side. And again, they are not holding the bag on Paciorek. And Paciorek goes in a hit-and-run chopper to Durham. So they get the out, but Paciorek advances. Now with Paciorek in scoring position, Davy Johnson has Gary Carter coming to the plate in a 2-2 tie. They're going to walk Carter. And, of course, Darryl Strawberry coming up.
You can see the value of a Strawberry and why the club was hurting when he was out of the lineup. Okay, put him on, but Strawberry, just going on what he did last time, he doubled down that right field line. Of course, the Cubs are playing percentage, but right-hander, left-hander, the group that Strawberry's in, not going to make much difference.
So in a moment, Darryl Strawberry will be coming up with 2 men on. Jim Fry hoping that this bit of strategy will pay off and get him out of the inning.
I like it. I'll tell you why. It takes the monkey right off the pitcher's back. Fry is saying put him on. A lot of managers would simply say, hey, if you walk him, it's okay. Don't give him a good ball to hit.
And here's ball 4. The last time we saw Darryl Strawberry at Shea Stadium, he walked up to home plate with the bases loaded. High drive into deep right center field. Back goes Washington. Grand slam home run. Now back to live. Ball 1. The Strawberry slam against Steve Bedrosian in Atlanta. Now he's up there with runners at first and second. Pashorek at second and Carter at first. One and 0. Ground ball wide of first into right field for a base hit. Here comes Pashorek. Moreland's throw to the plate. He scores. Down to third goes Carter. So the Mets have taken a 3-2 lead as Darryl Strawberry singles by Leon Durham. Gary Carter allowed to go to third when the throw came to the plate. And now George Foster will hit the 2-run home run in the second inning coming up.
And remember, he hit the first pitch the last time up.
2 down. Runners at first and third. And Jim Fry and his Cubs are suddenly down 3-2. And for Jim, once again, trouble with a starting pitcher. As we told you, the last complete game by a Cub pitcher, Scott Sanderson, the 30th of June. Strawberry at first, Carter at third. Shallow left center. Coming up for it is Dernier, and that's it. 1 run, 2 hits, 2 left. And at the end of 3, the Mets 3 and the Cubs 2.
Now, as I understand it, Bobby, in baseball, you keep your players in a bullpen, choke your bats, and steal bases?
That's right, Freddie, and just about everybody drinks light beer from Miller.
Oh, this is the one that's less filling.
Right again, and that's important to an old base stealer like me, and it tastes great.
Certainly does. Now, about these bases, mate, how many did you steal?
681.
Wow. 681? Blimey, where do you keep them all?
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Monday on TV's Bloopers, take a crazy look at Steve Garvey, Bruce Jenner, and Bill Cosby.
Here we go.
And we've got a tiger by the tail Monday.
Are you going to tell Tom Pashorek, or am I going to tell him?
You're going to tell him, because if you tell him, Pashorek will have had a bad year today.
Well, there we were before the game, and Pashorek was chortling about his attendance clause in the contract, and the Mets are going to draw close to $3 million. And the Mets have informed us, oh, no, that only belonged to the White Sox. So now he's got to root for the White Sox to draw over $1.8 million.
Poor Tom. He's had a tough year today.
Boy, did he lose a lot of dough.
Oh, in 10 minutes.
3-2 in favor of the Mets, and we're going to the 4th inning. Keith Moreland, the Mets pitched to him with runners at second and third and 2 out in the 1st inning. And Moreland, who's been giving him a bad time, continued to do so with a base hit to drive in 2. Now he lifts one to right center field. Strawberry will make the play. Very bright sun. Darrell using that glove almost immediately to help get a little extra shade, and the ball hit in that area is against the wind. There's a light breeze, barely a zephyr, blowing from right to left, but it has turned out to be a beautiful day. It is T-shirt day here, Cub Busters T-shirts, and with the promotion and Dwight Gooden, it's a sellout. And here's Jody Davis. Davis flied to center in the 1st inning. Ball 1. Look at that. That's making the most out of things. Fastball shelled up the middle. So Jody gets a 1-out single to center, and that will bring up Chris Spire.
The next batter, 3rd baseman, Chris Spire.
Now Hernandez has just been asking his manager, should I play behind him halfway? It looks like he got the okay to play halfway because, again, going back to what we said earlier, you really have to try to manufacture things against Gooden. The Mets are going to try to guard against a possible play. What Fry wants to stay away from is the double play, and you do that with the hit and run play.
So with Davis aboard and 1 out, Chris Spire will be the hitter. Three to 2 Mets. Ball 1. For whatever reason, Spire has really come alive against Mets pitching this year. Lifetime, he's hit .250 against New York. He's hitting almost .430 this year against them. 1-0.
Davis is able to get a pretty good lead. Hernandez playing behind him.
And grabbing
a little
him.
Cat and mouse going on back there.
Look at him hitting him on the leg. And there he goes. Fouled away.
You saw Gooden back off when Carter flashed the first sign. It could be that Carter had put a sign on him, just one of those signs that maybe used once or twice during the ball game and kind of confused Gooden. There you see Davis trying to grab the glove, and Hernandez. I remember one player used to get a handful of dirt and put it in the first baseman's pocket, and the first baseman would step on his foot.
Jody does not have a stolen base, nor has he been involved in a steal this year. Now you can see Keith is in front of him. Davis needling him.
They moved him in now with the attempted hit and run.
1-1. That's a strike. Dwight Gooden leading the Cubs 3-2. We're in the top of the 4th inning. Check swing foul off to the right, rattling around amongst the customers, and it's still 1 ball and 2 strikes. Top of the 4th, 1 away. Standing at first, Jody Davis, held on by Keith Hernandez. Spire trying to move him around. 2-2.
Now, if you're going to run him 3-2, you figure, well, I'll run him 2-2. But you got a strikeout pitcher out there, regardless of who the hitter is. So Fry has a decision. For me, I'd start him.
Well, we'll watch Jody Davis and Gooden off the rubber. Cubs scored 2 in the 1st. Mets tied it in the 2nd. Mets take a lead in the 3rd. Cubs trying to tie it up in the 4th. Davis holding. Big breaking ball missed. 3-2.
And did you see Spire almost do a dance? His body bent in the middle. kneecaps went one way. He was just nothing he could do but take it. Watch him do a dipsy-do there. Whoop, whoop, whoop.
Now with a full count and 1 out, let's see if they play run and hit. Hernandez right on the bag. Jody goes and is a one-hopper hit behind Gardenhire, and by the time he picks it up, everybody's saved. So Gardenhire breaking the cover with Jody running, and the ball hit back of him.
It's interesting that Gardenhire was breaking the cover with Spire right-handed batter, which simply says that the Mets didn't think that he'd be able to pull Gooden. You can see Jody taking a look and see where the ball is hit. Gardenhire makes a good play getting the glove on the ball, but he was breaking it, thought that Spire would go the other way.
So with 1 out, the Cubs have runners at first and second, and Larry Boa coming up to the plate. Boa singled off Gooden's glove in the second inning.
They really don't expect Boa to be able to pull. Strawberry's over in left center, Foster in left field, a lot of room in right center field. You can see it.
Jody Davis, the tying run at second, Chris Spire at first. The outfield relatively shallow and shaded to left. Strawberry is up, as is Foster, and that's a strike. 0-1. There's a gap in right center field. Tom Paciorek has to play straight away and right. No speed, of course, at second base, representing the tying run. Jody Davis trying to take as much of a lead as he can. You see how Gooden is perspiring. You can understand why he wears a long sleeve shirt, to try and sop up the perspirations, keep his hands dry. 0-1. 1 ball and 1 strike. That was his fastball, but that was not a really good Gooden fastball at all.
Was not in a good spot either, which is a bit unusual.
1-1 to number 1, Larry Boa. Fastball sliced down the left field line. Foster in pursuit. Foul ball. 1-2.
Surprised that Gooden has been shaking Gary Carter off as much as he has. It makes you kind of think that maybe he's just shaking him around, because the last time they worked, they were in real good sync.
Boa has retired the side once in order. He's been struggling a little bit.
Shook him off again.
1-2. Fastball hit into left field, sinking in front of Foster, and the bases are loaded. Davis had nowhere to go but 90 feet. So bases loaded, 1 out, and Ray Fontenot coming up.
And Hernandez, ever alert, is coming in, and if nothing else, as we look at Jim Fry saying, hey, be alive for anything now.
Fontenot, you might remember, in what appeared to be a bunt situation in the second inning, did not appear to be too handy with the bat. As a bunter, if you're thinking squeeze, he's had just 1 hit all year.
You'd have to think that, and you'd also have to think he's just going to try to lay that bat on the ball. Knight is in close at third base.
And the same for Hernandez, poised and at the ready to charge from first. Full swing foul. 0-1. Davis at third, Spire at second, Boa at first. 4th inning, 3-2 Mets. So Fontenot in a big spot, and Bob Denier on deck. Gardenhire and Backman in double play depth. The outfield very shallow and towards left. Good fastball. That looked like a Gooden fastball, and the count 0-2.
And he had it in the Gooden spot, which was low. Now he's really in good shape to throw that big hard curveball and get the strikeout, which is what he's looking for right here. He doesn't want that fly ball, obviously.
He has 4. 2. Hit foul off third, down the line, out of play.
On the strength of that, Vin, I'd have to say that he obviously feels his fastball is his best pitch. That's what he's going to get him with, because pitchers just, well, they don't see that many curveballs, and that's the pitch you usually get the strikeout with. He came back with a fastball there, and Fontenot was able to foul it off. A spot like this, you don't even want him to put the bat on the ball, because even the ground ball might trickle through.
No balls and 2 strikes to Ray Fontenot with 1 out and the bases loaded.
Another fastball.
That's 5 strikeouts for Dwight Gooden. There you can see where he ranks in the league. Way out in front. Hang another K. And the batter will be Bob Dunier. Remember, Gooden struck out the side in the second inning. He got Lopes in the first inning, and now Fontenot. Dunier grounded out and struck out. Started him with a curveball and got it over.
Interesting that Fontenot, he gets him with the fastball and starts him off with just a perfect curveball low on the outside corner. And there was no way, I'm sure, Fontenot could touch that pitch, but he still got him with the high fastball out of the strike zone. So Carter is looking for that curveball, and it could be he just found it.
And another one in the dirt. 1 ball and 1 strike. Bases loaded, 2 out, top of the 4th. Mets 3, Cubs 2.
Carter blocks his curveball nicely to keep it from getting by him. Could have cost him a run right in front of it.
The Mets 3 runs, 5 hits. The Cubs 2 runs, 7 hits. 1 ball, 1 strike. And another curve, so he's given him 3 in a row.
3 in a row. That first one was a real good one for a strike. These 2 have been, the second one would be bounced up there. This one just snapped a little bit too soon and out of the strike zone.
2-1 to Bob Dunier. Fastball, strike 2.
That's simply, it's now you and me, Mr. Dunier. I'm going to throw you my best fastball. You try to hit it. And all Dunier could do was just listen to it go by home plate.
And listen to this crowd come alive. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, bases loaded. High number over the mound. Gardenhire charging, picked up by Backman on the bag. The ball took a funny bounce and came to Backman right at the bag.
He was almost screened on that play.
And the Cubs lead 3. And at the end of 3.5, Mets 3, Cubs 2.
July 31st, 1985. Arlington Park, Chicago, engulfed by fire. But the flames of destruction could not singe the spirit of America's Turf Classic. An international field awaits the challenge of the Arlington Million. The race is on, August 25th on a special NBC Sports World.
Here's that play again. Now watch the bounce as it gets over Gooden's head. Dunier really doesn't drive the ball. It looks like Gardenhire is going to make the play, and whoops. All of a sudden it's Backman stretching. Boy, that's what happens when you're not really, things are going bad for you. The Cubs, 3 base hits, do not score a run, and then inning is ended with a play like that.
And into the bottom of the 4th inning we go. The Mets 3 and the Cubs 2. The Mets will have Ray Knight, followed by Ron Gardenhire, and then Dwight Gooden. Ball 1, 1-0. Knight is another fellow who's been swinging a hot bat of late. In the last 3 weeks, he's hit over 320, and that's good news. The Mets, of course, have been worrying about Knight all year. And he lines it to left, coming up and making the catch is Davy Lopes. 1 away. What was it Clint Hurdle said about Howard Johnson? Because Johnson has been hitting a little ground balls to the second baseman. He said, Hurdle said Johnson is going to write a book called The Summer of 4 to 3.
And Hurdle's done a good job for these Mets.
He sure has.
Ron Gardenhire walked in the second inning. Ray Fontenot working against Ron Gardenhire here in the fourth inning. Mets leading 3-2. The Cardinals playing Philadelphia in a doubleheader later on. You know, when Ray Fontenot was acquired over the winter from the Yankees, he was acquired to be a left-handed reliever, a commodity the Cubs did not have last year. However, Fontenot has become a member of the rotation for the last 2 months, and he hasn't pitched in relief since the 6th of June. So you talk about a turnabout in a guy's career. 3-0. And there's ball 4 to Ron Gardenhire. For Fontenot, that's the third walk, one of them intentionally granted, and it'll bring up Gooden.
And that's good eighth-place hitting. You say good eighth-place hitting. Anytime you get on is good, but especially so on a day like today. Gooden, you know, will be looking to bunt the ball, get him out of the hot sun, and put the man in scoring position.
The Gooden up there, we can check his numbers just to see what kind of a job he has done with the bat this year. He has a half a dozen sacrifices. Only Ed Lynch has sacrificed more. There's the bunt. Good one. Jody Davis to Ryan Sandberg, and on the play advancing to second is Gardenhire. He just does everything well.
I tell you, he's just a good athlete, and he does what he has to do. He had to bunt here, he bunted. He had to get the strikeout in the fourth inning, he got it. You can see why he's going to win a lot of games. Sure, you can look at his arm, but he also helps himself on the mound and in the batter's box.
So Gooden has a chance to sit down and cool off. And with a runner at second and 2 out, the Mets have an opportunity to add a run as Mel Stottlemyre shook his hand. 3-2 New York, bottom of the fourth inning. And the batter is Wally Backman. 8-game hitting streak, has grounded to short, grounded to third. 0 for 2. Ground ball to shortstop. Boa cranks up and gets him, and so they leave Gardenhire at second base. And at the end of 4, it remains Mets 3, Cubs 2. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station.
Tonight, Hunter gets pushy.
Hardly an accident.
When a deadly eavesdropper drives him crazy.
You got a real nutcase here.
Hunter, tonight.
Don't get ripped off. Fight back with David Horowitz tonight at 7:30.
We're going to the 5th inning here at Shea Stadium in New York. The Mets leading the Cubs 3-2. And we'd like to remind our viewers we'll be selecting the NBC Light Beer from Miller player of the game at the conclusion of the ballgame. Davy Lopes, Ryan Sandberg, and Leon Durham in that order. He has struck out and grounded out. So 0 for 2 today. Davy is struggling against the Mets this year. His batting average against the Mets is .045. So they have really thrown a blanket over him. Fastball, ball 1. So doing a number on Denier and Lopes. The Mets have beaten the Cubs 9 out of 12. That's in there. 1-1. Two balls, 1 strike. That's a good play.
Carter, when he went to throw that ball, he bumped into Renner, and it just bounced up there. You can see Gooden do a juggling act.
Two balls, 1 strike to Davy Lopes. High pop fly. Backman is calling on the grass. One out in the 5th inning, and Ryan Sandberg coming up. Sandberg singled in the 1st inning, flied to center in the 3rd.
Coming up, second baseman Ryan Sandberg.
Dwight Gooden trying to win his 12th in a row and trying to match Joaquin Andujar in wins with 18. Strike.
Oh, Dutch. When you're catching and the umpire does that, it just makes everybody alive. Of course, he gives you strike one. Most of them will just go, ah.
Fastball fouled away, so he has 0-2 to Ryne Sandberg. Gooden with a record of 17-3. He could have the fewest defeats for a 20-game winner. Remember, Ron Guidry in 1978 went 25-3. The last National League 20-game winner to have so few defeats, Preacher Rowe of the Brooklyn Dodgers. He was 22-3 way back in 1951. Curveball got him looking. Half a dozen strikeouts for Dwight Gooden. What a mean pitch that was.
And keep in mind that 2 of them, the strikeouts, have been on fastballs. Fontenot on that high fastball, and then Spire took one. But the rest of them, you can see the curveball is his 3rd strike pitch after throwing that blazing fastball.
Off speed, and Leon Durham way out in front of it. Leon started that swing sometime this morning.
That's the first one he's thrown today.
Durham doubled inside the left field foul line and grounded to 3rd. Fastball. So he has him 0-2, and with a half a dozen strikeouts already in 4 2/3 innings, the crowd wants to see another.
Get the feeling you're playing this game on a runway, don't you?
Oh, it is tough. It is very difficult. Talk about noise pollution. 2-2.
He really tried to overthrow that curveball. Oh, he didn't try to overthrow it. He overthrew it. He really tried to throw it hard and snap it off. You could really just see it squib out.
2-2 to Leon Durham. Fastball and a little pop fly back a short. And there's Gardenhire fighting the glare and made a good play. Boy, that sun is murder, but he was able to stay with it. And at the end of 4 1/2, 3-2 New York. Tom Paciorek fouling the first one back.
Here's that play. Gardenhire really makes a tough play. You see him flick the glasses, misses him, gets him the second time. Now he has to find the ball, shades his eyes, and he actually broke the wrong way when the ball was hit. So that was not an easy play.
High fly ball into left field. Davy Lopes going back, drifting on the track at the wall to make the catch. That light breeze blowing from right to left almost carried it out.
Stepping up.
See Davy motioning. It was a crosswind. Davy thought he had it all along. Now he's kind of saying, where's that warning track? Now his feet tell him he's on the warning track. How much room does he have? And he makes a good play. And that ball kind of drifted away from him.
So that light breeze gusting occasionally from right to left. And with 1 out, here is Keith Hernandez. Ground ball to Leon Durham. Nice big hop for him. 2 down. So 2 quick outs in the 5th inning, and Gary Carter coming up. Carter grounded to 3rd and was walked intentionally, and that's when Strawberry singled to right and broke the tie. 3-2 Mets, bottom of the 5th, 2 out.
Well, Carter's got to feel like, well, they're going to try to get ahead of me with a fastball. Do I jump on it or do I take it because the 2 guys ahead of me hit the first pitch? I got to believe if it's a fastball, he's going to jump on it.
Little did he know about it at the time, but Gary Carter made his Major League debut with the Montreal Expos right here at Shea Stadium. Now it figures he'll finish up here. 1-1. That was back in September of 1974. Apparently, Gary Carter feels there is definitely some vendetta of sorts as far as the Expos are concerned.
Well, I think that pitch that Gullickson threw delivered the message if he thought about it.
Well, and he even mentioned Andre Dawson. Ground ball to shortstop. He was saying Dawson wouldn't have played after a night game except for me. So he's doing a lot of thinking about it. At the end of 5, 3-2 Mets. Right now, here's another edition of Baseball Remembers.
Footwork presents Baseball Remembers. Brought to you by New Footwork, Athlete's Foot Remedy. Your ultimate weapon to cure and protect against athlete's foot. Willie Stargell relates his philosophy on enjoying the game of baseball.
Day in, day out basis, I felt that each inning, it was a learning process. I didn't want to miss nothing. And I felt that if I could apply myself for 9 innings each day, as best as I possibly could, when the game was over, and I had an awful lot of fun. I never wanted to be great, I just wanted to be consistent. I wanted to go out and enjoy myself like I did before I started making money. I always kind of visualized what I was doing when I was really enjoying the game. And I never wanted to get too far away from that. I wanted to have fun.
The game of the week, the Red Sox and the Yankees, or the Kansas City Royals and the Toronto Blue Jays. That's next Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Joe and I will have a chance to go to the stadium, see John McNamara, Wade Boggs, and company.
We have to ask Jim Rice, if nothing else, I'm going to ask him if he really said that about Dwight Gooden, batting against Gooden, his 2 swings and a hunk of the bench.
Yeah, that's a great line.
For the Cubs, right fielder
Keith Moreland, followed by Jody Davis and then Chris Spire. Moreland singled to drive in 2, fly to center in the 4th, 1 for 2. 3 runs, 5 hits for the Mets, 2 runs, 7 hits for the Cubs. There's been a 2-run home run by George Foster. Curveball. Dwight Gooden with a half a dozen strikeouts. Two balls, no strikes. The Mets are playing so well that their winning percentage is now the best in the National League. Only the Toronto Blue Jays have a better winning percentage in the major leagues. Fastball fouled away. 2-1. Fastball and a high fly ball to left center. It's playable. Darryl Strawberry right there. Let's get a sports update. Go to Manhattan and to Bill McAtee.
All right, Vin, up in Minnesota, the Twins and the Angels played 4.5 scoreless innings until Randy Bush hit this home run off Kirk McCaskill in the bottom of the 5th. A solo shot, so the Angels, trying to hold off Kansas City in the West, trail the Twins by a score of 1-0.
Meanwhile, just as tough here with the Mets leading the Cubs by 1, 3-2. And Jody Davis at the plate. Fastball rounded to short. Ron Gardenhire gets him. 2 down in the 6th inning. That's 7 in a row retired now by Dwight Gooden. And the batter will be Chris Spire. Spire struck out and singled in the 4th inning. 1 for 2.
It's kind of tough to have to go up there knowing you have to spot him a strike, because Davis did hit the first pitch, and you really, as a good hitter, should take at least 1 strike. But with Gooden, no way you should give him any advantage.
Started him with a breaking ball.
Boy, he'll make you dance, huh? He pops your kneecaps when he throws that thing. He starts it right at you and he just cuts right across the outside corner.
1 ball and 1 strike. Well, after seeing Spire flinch that last time, you knew he had a breaking ball waiting for him. 1-1 to Chris. Now the fastball, and he's behind 2 balls and 1 strike. Gooden, by the way, with his half a dozen strikeouts, does not have a walk. And he's behind now 3-1. On the same day that Tom Seaver won his 300th game last Sunday, Gooden broke Seaver's record by winning 11 straight. And in that game in Chicago, he allowed only 2 fly ball outs. Ground ball to third. So the Cubs go very quietly in the 6th inning. 8 in a row retired at the end of 5 1/2. Mets 3, Cubs 2.
Strike 3. A no-hitter, a perfect game for Don Lawrence.
Meet the men behind the microphones on a special NBC Sports World, Sunday.
From the tale spun by Ring Lardner to the vibrant radio broadcasts of Red Barber to the always controversial Howard Cosell, NBC Sports World will take a look at these journalists, the great communicators of sport. Tomorrow, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 3:30 in Los Angeles on NBC Sports.
Oh, maybe Howard will talk about jockocracy. I can't wait. His favorite subject.
Here's Darryl Strawberry, followed by George Foster and then Ray Knight. Strawberry doubled to right, and then after they had walked Carter, he singled to right to drive in the tie-breaking run. And lines it to right. Moreland makes the play. This day in baseball, August 10th, 1981, a momentous occasion in the life of Pete Rose. It was on this day that Rose singled into left field to pass Stan Musial for the most hits in National League history. And, of course, he has really gone on from there. That was in 1981.
And what a job he's done managing that ball club. I'm telling you, the extra pressure of managing the Ty Cobb record, the whole thing, and he just goes merrily along.
And to watch his team react when he bunted over the winning run against the Dodgers the other night, you knew how popular and what a job he's done. Foul ball by Foster.
And in the bunt was what got the headlines, but what did he do before? Did he steal the base?
Oh, yeah. In the first inning, he hit into a force play, stole second, and scored. And around the 4th inning, he made a diving one-hand catch and took an extra base hit away from Kenny Landreau. Then he got a base hit, and then later on, he bunts in the winning run. Otherwise, he didn't do a thing.
And poor Lasorda had Frank Sinatra there and Cary Grant, and Pete Rose did that to him.
He probably went in and turned their pictures to the wall. 2-1 to count to George Foster. Foster did a 2-run home run in the 2nd inning to tie up the game. For every home run he hits, he donates $1 to St. Agatha's Orphanage in Nanuet, New York. I got family in Nanuet, New York. So today's home run, that means a career number 330 home runs for him, and he's donated over $5,000 this year to St. Agatha's Orphanage in Nanuet. Good man, George. Down he goes.
California, Minnesota, you saw the score tied up. Those Angels doing quite well.
Third baseman Ray Knight.
Ray Knight is grounded to short and flied to left. He's 0 for 2. On deck, Ron Gardenhire. The Mets 3 and the Cubs 2. We're in the bottom of the 6th when the Cubs bat in the 7th. Boa, Fontenot, and Dernier. Direct contrast where Dwight Gooden has struck out a half a dozen. Fontenot taking care of Foster. That's Ray's first strikeout. Oh, good pitch. And Knight way out in front.
Changing speeds. Talk about that Gooden's pitching, though, Vin. In 6 innings, 88 pitches, 59 strikes, 29 balls, and 17 of 25 first pitches strikes.
Yeah, you talk about coming right at you, putting the heat on the hitter. 1-1 to Ray Knight. Fontenot is on thin ice. The Mets are winning 3-2. Fontenot is due up second in the 7th inning. No one throwing yet in the Cub bullpen. Jim Fry will make his decision when the time comes. 2-1. Sinker low, ball 3. 3-1. After Knight, Gardenhire. Boa, Fontenot, and Dernier are due up in the 7th. Foul off to the right, well out of play in this sellout crowd. Three and 2, the count to Ray Knight. Fastball and a chopper to third to Chris Spire. And that's that. A quiet 6th inning for Ray Fontenot, and he has retired 8 in a row. At the end of 6, 3-2 Mets. Will be back after these messages from your local station.
You're invited to a fabulous superstar party with Alabama. Julian Lennon, the Pointer Sisters, and Donna Summer. Disneyland's 30th anniversary Sunday.
Look, guys, this is our big chance. We're to tell them Sports Channel isn't ESPN. Sports Channel is the one that gives you all of us. Yeah. You get the Mets, the Yankees.
Way to go.
The Islanders.
All right.
And Nets. The Nets.
Chocolate Thunder.
Sports Channel. It's the only one big enough to cover all of us.
Sports Channel. We've got New York sports covered. If you're a New York sports fan, call your cable company to order Sports Channel today.
Well, we were wondering about Jim Fry's strategy, and there's the tip-off. George Frazier begins to loosen up in the Cub bullpen. So Jim is going to make the move. Thad Bosley comes out on deck. So it's Boa, Bosley, and Dernier. And Ray Fontenot did very well. He goes out losing 3-2, but in 6 innings, he just about held his aim. That's Ron Say standing in front of him with the bat. And into the 7th we go. 4-1.
Ray Knight is really trying to take the bunt away from Boa, and he's also guarding the line, as is Foster in left field. They've really swung around, giving him even more room in right center field.
He's 2 for 2 today and drives it shallow straight away. Here comes Strawberry. Nine in a row retired by Dwight Gooden on that little looper. And now Thad Bosley coming up to bat for Ray Fontenot.
Pitcher Ray Fontenot, number 27.
Strawberry in center field is really a glider. He's so effortless when he runs, and he really covers a lot of ground.
Long legs, 6'5". Looks like he belongs in center.
I tell you, I think he's just going to be just a superstar.
Thad Bosley is a superstar and coming off the bench. He leads the National League with a dozen pinch hits. In fact, he has 9 hits in his last 14 at-bats as a pinch hitter. Fouled away. 0-1 the count. Bob Dernier on deck. Mets 3, Cubs 2. We're in the 7th. Fastball in there.
Boy, that's got to be a tough job. Sit on the bench for 7 innings and then pick up a bat and try to hit Gooden.
And they tell us he's clocking 93. And the curveball, 1-2. Gooden with a half a dozen strikeouts has not walked a batter. A little wobbly in the first inning when he gave up a double and 2 singles. Curveball hit foul down the line. We mentioned earlier that strikeouts are not the only weapon used by Dwight Gooden. He's had 6 games this year where he has walked either 1 or none. So you have the 6 Ks, that's pretty obvious, but his control has been remarkable. Fastball, 2-2.
That's a great statistic. 2.4 for 9 innings.
Balanced by the strikeouts. Overwhelming. So he's 17-3. Hit up the middle, but shading to the right was Backman, and takes care of him. Wally Backman playing Bosley up the middle, and he's there to handle it. A reminder that this telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball, may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. With 2 down in the 7th inning, Bob Dernier coming out. 10 in a row retired by Dwight Gooden. The last base hit was the single left by Boa that loaded the bases with 1 out in the 4th. But Fontenot struck out. Dernier hit into a force play, and that was that. Dernier is 0 for 3. Ball 1.
Dear Dernier, would you maybe think bunt right now? Knight is back. Miss with the fastball, maybe the slow curveball.
Except for the fact that Jim Fry said his foot is bothering him. Strike. That's where the operation was, that area protected by the plastic cover. He almost looks like he's wearing spats. 1-2. Boy, there's something that has drifted out with the Buffalo, spats.
Thomas Wolfe used to wear them.
Okay, I'll tell you all about him later. 1-2 to Dernier. 2-2.
I wouldn't want to go off this telecast without mentioning
That's right,
good old time.
Well, you're hanging around Soroyan.
Flawlessly fielded by Mr. Scully.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Bob Dernier. Well, he goes 3-2. 3-2 Mets, top of the 7th. Fastball got him. Strikeout number 7. And at the end of 6.5, 3-2 New York. Now, here's another edition of the 7th inning stretch.
Gatorade Thirst Quencher presents the 7th inning stretch. Gatorade is thirst aid for that deep down body thirst.
When the Cards turned over this ace, a new day dawned in the Big Apple. He's got a silver bat and a glove of gold. Can you name him? Keith Hernandez of the New York Mets spent more than 8 seasons with the St. Louis Cardinals, where he helped the Redbirds to a World Series win in 1982. But the next season, Keith came to the Mets in a surprising trade, and a sluggish team found new life as the popular Hernandez hammered out a winning style. And nowhere is style on better display than at first base, where Hernandez has won 7 consecutive Gold Glove awards. Thanks to Keith Hernandez, the New York Mets have found the right balance.
Now pitching.
I realize that the thoroughly professional attitude is that no pitcher can get me out if you're a hitter. But don't you think in the Cub dugout right now there's that seeping feeling starting to work its way into the psyche about Gooden has too much for us today?
Well, I think it's working its way in because you're in that thing called a slump. You need somebody to pick you up, and the way he's throwing, because he's got control of everything now. His fastball is his best pitch right now, but he still has a good curveball going.
When the Cubs come up in the 8th inning, they will have Davey Lopes, Ryan Sandberg, and Leon Durham, and that figures to be the biggest test
There's what you were talking about, taking a look at that bench. Somebody's got to pick the ball club up. Somebody's got to say, hey, I'm going to do it.
Well, we shall see. Meanwhile, George Frazier has been dispatched to the mound to pick up for Ray Fontenot. Fontenot went 6 innings, allowed 3 runs and 5 hits. He walked 3, struck out 1. He gave up a 2-run home run to George Foster to tie up the game, and then after walking Gary Carter with 2 out in the 3rd, Strawberry singled home for Shorrock, and Fontenot was a buck short and had to go out. Ron Gardenhire followed by Dwight Gooden and then Wally Backman. Fouled away.
Just a footnote to what you were talking about, too, Vin. Gooden is a good closer. I mean, he's got 11 complete games, so he doesn't look to that bullpen for help. He gets in that 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, and he goes to the whip. He's going to get the job done.
In there. So Dwight Gooden trying to win his 12th straight, tie Ron Guidry's streak. He would tie Joaquin Andujar with 18 victories. 0-2. They're going to check it first. No swing, says Fred Brocklander. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Frazier backed up in the Cub bullpen by Larry Sorensen. Fouled away. 3-2 Mets, bottom of the 7th inning. You know, we were talking before about great American writers writing about baseball, and of course, it's the old story. You're inclined to take something almost for granted until you are in jeopardy of losing it, and then suddenly that whatever becomes even more important. I think for all of us, that's how we felt about the strike. Almost got him. And the thing that seemed to make so much sense, the great Thomas Wolfe once wrote about baseball being a part of the whole weather of our lives, of the thing that is our own, of the whole fabric, the million memories of America. Not a bad thing to think about, and we almost blew it. The weather of our lives. 2-2, the count to Ron Gardenhire. Gardenhire is pretty much of a slap hitter, but Davy Lopes plays him as if he's Darryl Strawberry or George Foster. 2-2.
We should keep a record of how many planes fly over. I think everybody except Chuck Yeager's going over today.
3-2. Little number up along 3rd, foul. So you have Denier shortened up a little in center and Moreland in right and Lopes very deep in left. What makes it interesting is Gardenhire has only 1 extra base hit this year. He's not the kind of a guy to go up there and hit 1 out. But Davy sure is respectable. Deep in left. Of course, Davy was an outfielder, converted to an infielder, back to an outfielder again, and an outfielder's worry is always that a ball is going to be hit over his head.
They hate that.
3-2 to Gardenhire. Fouled away. Oh, hello, buddy. Good play. Bud Harrelson, who sparkled here for years.
I think that argument he had when the World Series at Oakland when he hollered to Donatelli, "I'm not going to suffer your incompetency," is a classic. Imagine a ball player in an argument saying that.
3-2 and ball 4 to Gardenhire. And with that, let's get a sports update again and go to good buddy Bill McAtee.
All right, Vin, the Angels have come back against the Twins with the bases loaded on a 3-0 pitch. Doug DeCinces drills a shot down the left field line. That clears the bases, 3 runs across, and the Angels, who trailed 1-0, score 5 runs in the top of the 6th, and they lead it in the bottom of the 6th, 5-1.
So Gene Mauch's crew is in good shape. Meanwhile, here's Gooden in what would appear to be a bunt situation. Strike. Dwight would like to be a switch hitter, let's put it that way. However, the Mets management says, wait a minute, that right arm is the franchise. You'll hit right-handed and protect that right arm, whether it's a left-hander or a right-hander pitching.
He just gave Harrelson a lot of time to give a lot of signs.
There goes the runner. Hit and run chopper. There's nobody at shortstop. Base hit. And Gardenhire goes to third.
He just gets the bat on the ball. That's all he has to do, and with Boa breaking to cover the bag, because they thought that Gooden would be at least going to the other way with the bunt, they've got a first and third and an inning started.
And Wally Backman with an 8-game hitting streak coming up. Backman has 2 ground balls to short and to third, 0 for 3. Bottom of the 7th, 3-2 Mets, and boy, they're alive here now. Meanwhile, the Cubs have to play the infield out. And after Backman comes Tom Paciorek. Fouled away. 0-1.
Well, we've talked so much about Gooden's pitching, but he does so many things to help himself. The batter's box, the fielding, what have you. Here he is now. He has set up this inning, first and third, nobody out.
He laid down the sacrifice in the 4th inning and then perfectly executes the hit-and-run play. So Frazier in the middle of the griddle here with Backman in first and third. And a drag bunt coming to the plate to score is Gardenhire.
Well, just like you can't take for granted the bunt when there are 2 outs, you can't take for granted he will not bunt with a man on first and third. And I believe he's going to have to take a curtain call for the bunt.
And that means he is now hit in 9 straight. That was no squeeze. He was dragging for a hit and executed the play perfectly. 4-2 New York.
And you take a look at how they scored this run. You talk about the nits and gnats getting you a walk, a hit-and-run play, bounces the ball through the infield, a drag bunt, and now you got the cannons up there, and it could be a big, big inning.
Tom Paciorek is due up, and Danny Heap, I believe, will come off the bench and hit for him.
Tom Paciorek. Number 4, Lenny Dykstra.
And Len Dykstra is the one coming out finally. So Dykstra will be batting, and Fry coming out of the Cub dugout. Larry Sorensen had been throwing in the bullpen. You know, one of the interesting thing about little Wally Backman, you talk about the nits and the gnats, when he bunts, just in the opportunities of bunting, he's almost a 500 bunter. Can you believe? He has tried to bunt for a hit now 29 times, and he succeeded 14. He ought to bunt all the time.
It's amazing, amazing. That kind of success rate, I mean, that spreads. When you have meetings, you talk about that, and lo and behold, that means that you pull the infield in 2 and 3 steps. When you're hot, you're hot, and the Mets are certainly hot.
And when you're Fry, you're Fry, and all Jim can do is go out and counsel Frazier. And of course, he knows full well that Rick Sutcliffe is on the disabled list for the 3rd time. Steve Trout hasn't pitched for almost 3 weeks because of elbow trouble. Dennis Eckersley is in Boston getting his shoulder x-rayed and examined, and all he can do is carry on.
Well, Frazier really hasn't pitched badly this inning. The base on balls, you could put that on the bad side if you so choose, but the infield hit and then the bunt, and he's in deep trouble.
Len Dykstra hitting .252 with a home run and 15 runs batted in, and they're looking bunt again. 4-1. The way the Cubs set it up, Spire comes to the plate. It's up to Boa to break and cover third. Of course, that's a very interesting target then, with no one at shortstop. And Dykstra looking at Bud Harrelson. And they try to go to second base to get Gooden. That's the old play, trying to lull the runner into following the shortstop, thinking there's no one to bother him. And the second baseman, instead of breaking to first to cover, loops back to try and pick him off. Gooden wouldn't go for it.
Spire flashing the defensive signs now since he went in to talk to Frazier.
1 ball, no strikes to the pinch hitter, Len Dykstra. Two balls, no strikes.
Sure would be tempting for Johnson to switch off because the infield is really broken up with Boa breaking towards third, Spire breaking in, Sandberg breaking to first, Durham coming in. Dykstra can handle that bat.
And he makes it tough. He's 5'10", but he would appear smaller to you by the time he bends at the knees and waist, choking up on the bat. And let's see what he does. 2-0. He's swinging and instead looks at ball 3. He was not around to bunt. On deck, Keith Hernandez. 4-2 Mets, 7th inning. He got a strike.
Now is a decision for Johnson. Do you turn him loose? You make him take another strike.
Or would you even play run and hit, run and bunt?
Well, I'd be a little conservative. I'd make him take.
Runners hold, and he's looking at ball 4 to load the bases for Hernandez.
And that's why I'd make him take, to get this guy up there.
First baseman, Hernandez.
Well, if you're thinking about it, the Mets have hit 4 Grand Slam home runs this year. Strawberry has hit 2, Carter and Forster, 1 each. The team record, they had 5 slams back in '73. In case the thought crossed your mind.
And you have to watch the first pitch. Frazier's got to put something on this one. Keith will be ready to jump on it if it's in the zone.
And Hernandez is 0 for 3. Hit into a double play and twice grounded to Leon Durham, but all those at-bats were against Ray Fontenot. 4-2 Mets. Ball 1. Remember, the Cardinals are playing a twilight night doubleheader in Philadelphia. You have Dwight Gooden at third, Wally Backman at second, and Len Dykstra at first. And nobody out with a run in. 1-0. And a one-hopper into left field for a base hit. Gooden will score. Backman will score. Dykstra to third. Hernandez to second. So at the infield up, Hernandez drives one into left to pick up 2, and now Gary Carter is up there with the infield up and first base open. Strike. They can't use the left-hander Meredith, but he is getting up in the bullpen. Jim was saying, Jim Fry, before the game, he didn't want to use Meredith because he worked 5 innings last night, but there he is. So it's a beleaguered bullpen. Ground ball into left field. In comes Dykstra. Here comes Hernandez. He is out at the plate. Carter to second. It is 7-2 Mets. Davey scored like the game, 7-2.
Davey Lopes made a good throw because he gave Davis a good ball to handle. Hernandez really didn't get a good jump off second base, but the throw by Lopes gave Davis a chance to block that play.
Little surprise, there was nobody out. There wasn't any real rush to send him in. And now you have Darryl Strawberry getting the intentional walk.
Tell you, that base hit by Hernandez was a good piece of hitting. It was the fastball looked like to the outside part of the plate. He went to the opposite field, and then Carter came up and pulled the ball that was outside to left field. Infield being drawn in, big advantage.
So the game has disintegrated on Jim Fry and the Cubs. It's a 4-run 7. It is now 7-2 Mets. And we mentioned at the very start of the day that the Mets are averaging 6 runs a game since the beginning of July. Well, they come up with 7, and they're not finished as George Foster comes up against George Frazier.
Foster's jumped on the first pitch every time up.
So Frazier has allowed 4 runs and 4 hits. The key to the inning would be the hit-and-run single by Gooden, followed by the bunt single by Backman. George Foster hit a 2-run home run in the second inning, flied to center, and struck out since. George really muscled his home run. It went out over the 396 sign in right center field.
Oh, we got a little war going on here. Now watch, as soon as Foster gets in, Frazier's going to back off that mound. I'd almost bet on it because he did it before. He's really upset at him.
Not this time. Shades of Al Roboski.
Right.
Ball 1. Foster would appear to have come back with one of his favorite weapons, his home run. He's had 9 home runs in his last 25 games, and he's picked up a lot of RBIs. Ground ball into right field. Carter on that bad knee will be held at third. Strawberry at second, Foster at first, and the batter will be Ray Knight.
Took a breaking ball to the opposite field. Everything that Frazier's throwing up there, they're just hitting. Made some good pitches, and they're hitting them. Foster, if he tries to pull that ball, it's a ground ball to the shortstop, but he went with it. Opposite field, base hit.
So Jim Fry has seen George Frazier give up 5 hits and 4 runs here in the 7th inning. Here's another look at Foster's base hit.
He goes with the breaking ball and punches it into right field. Carter would have normally scored, but the bad leg, and he had to stop.
The following message is furnished by Major League Baseball.
Strike 3! Yay! You know, I always wanted the best for my kids, the best neighborhood, the best schools. But most important was my father's advice. Give of yourself. Dad would always find time to have a catch with us or take us to a ball game. I think that gave us a special family closeness.
Hey, Dad, catch.
That's why I take my kids to baseball games. You owe it to them.
Major League Baseball, a family tradition. Share it all.
A very large and exuberant crowd. The paid attendance today, 48,306. The total in Shea Stadium, 49,324. In doing a little compilation, the average home attendance for the Mets, 33,000. When Gooden pitches at home, he's averaged 40,000. That's a goodly difference. He has brought in an awful lot of money to the Mets.
Never mind that. How about the White Sox? What are they drawing?
That's right. Pashorek is sitting here. Doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
Ray Knight with the bases loaded. And 1 out in the 7th inning. And the Mets have broken it open, leading the Cubs 7-2. The only out, remember, was Hernandez cut down at the plate on the throw from Davey Lopes. Carter at third, Strawberry at second, Foster at first. Fouled away. So Larry Sorensen trying to restore order. And Brewster finally called in. They had Sorensen, Brewster, and Meredith is all alone in the pen. Brewster, who pitched last night, was the losing pitcher. 0-1 the count to Ray Knight. High fly ball into right center. Denier on his horse will make the catch. Everybody tagging at second and third. Carter scores. Strawberry to third. Holding at first is Foster. 8-2 Mets, and it's a 5-run 7th inning. That run is charged to Frazier. Second out, and Brewster now trying to work and get Gardenhire and end the inning. George Foster at first, Darryl Strawberry at third. 8-2 New York. It's been Fontenot, Frazier, and Brewster. Little foul off to the right of the plate. Davis coming over. And that's it. Post 5 in the 7th for New York. 2 men left. And at the end of 7, the Mets 8 and the Cubs 2. Lope, Sandberg, and Durham due up for Chicago.
You're looking at Yosh Kiwano, who is the equipment manager for the Cubs, and he had a streak snapped. He came to the big leagues in 1943, and he missed his first day of work last week because of a cracked rib.
Wow.
I wonder if Nobi knows that.
You bet he does.
Nobi Kiwano, Yoshi's brother, of course, the equipment manager of the Dodgers.
Those are Gooden's numbers. They all spell trouble for Chicago. As we go to the 8th inning, 8-2 in favor of the Mets. A strike to Davy Lope. Struck out, grounded out, and popped up. Davy is 0 for 3. Fastball, 0-2. The Cubs jumped on Gooden for 2 runs in the first inning. Sandberg singled, Durham doubled him to third, and Moreland singled home both men. But outside of loading the bases in the 4th and failing to score, the Cubs haven't done anything. In fact, if you forget the first inning when they scored and the 4th inning when they loaded the bases, they have just 1 other hit. 0-2 to Davy. Eight runs, 10 hits for the Mets, including a 2-run home run by George Foster. 2 runs, 7 hits for the Cubs. Show you how effective the Mets lineup has been today. Everyone has at least 1 base hit except Knight, who has a scoring fly ball, and Gardenhire, who was walked all 3 times. And Davy has a curveball. Get him again. 8 strikeouts for Dwight Gooden.
Stepping up, second baseman, Ryan.
No doubt about it. Right on the outside corner. Look at old Dutch booming out.
So Dwight has struck out 8. His high 14 against San Francisco this year. There have been 2 other National League pitchers to strike out 14. Jose De Leon of the Pirates struck out 14 Mets, and the Dodgers' Fernando Valenzuela struck out 14 Astros. Lined into left field. Base hit for Sandberg. He's 2 for 4.
If you're wondering about the number of pitches for Gooden with all those strikeouts, he's made 107 pitches. Not very many.
No. And we're in the 8th inning with 1 out. John Durham doubled inside the left field foul line, grounded to third, and popped to short. In other words, the left-hand hitter is showing you why he does not have too many home runs on the road. He hasn't pulled a ball yet, going 1 for 3. Although he's hitting Gooden very well, he's hitting .400 against Gooden, and promptly slices one into left center. That will fall. Dykstra, playing center field, will get it into second base as Sandberg goes to third. So the Cubs try to come back. First and third with 1 out.
Right fielder.
That's the 9th hit for Chicago. And the batter, Keith Moreland. And of course, the big albatross around Jim Frye's neck, he doesn't have a starting pitcher who hangs around. The last Cubs starting pitcher to complete a game was Scott Sanderson on the 30th of June. And no bullpen can stand the heat that's been put on the Cub pen. Keith Moreland will come up, 1 for 3. By the way, in case you're wondering how many hits, the most hits that Gooden has allowed in a game, it's 9. San Diego got 9 and beat him 2-0 behind Lamar Hoyt. Ball 1. The Cubs got 9 hits, but Gooden beat them 3-2. And now Dwight is leading 8-2, allowing 9 hits for the 3rd time this year. Fastball in there. 1-1. Top of the 8th. Mets 8, Cubs 2. Curveball, and you could see Moreland was swinging one-handed, trying to time that slow curve, and he couldn't do it.
He was trying to keep that bat back, but just couldn't do it. He'd take something off the curveball, you could see, and then just couldn't get it.
Just missed. Of course, when he gets 2 strikes on a hitter, all 49,000 people, I think, they just see a strike. 2-2, the count to Keith Moreland. Curveball hit slowly to shortstop. Back to second for 1. A bounce to first, not nearly in time, and the run scored.
Backman did not get there in good shape. And when he got the throw from the shortstop, he just watched him jump. The ball isn't hit that hard to begin with, but the rhythm was off. He just wasn't at the bag, and he had to take that little extra step, and when he jumped straight up, he lost whatever leverage he had and just threw a one-hopper.
Well, Keith Moreland hitting into a force play picks up the run batted in. It means Moreland has driven in all 3 runs for Chicago, and the batter is Jody Davis. 8-3 Mets. Davis flied to center, single to center, rolled to short. 1 for 3. Jody Davis was not with the team when they left Chicago, but he had a wonderful excuse. Ball 1. His wife Pam gave birth to their 3rd child on Wednesday, Jeremy William Davis. One and all the count of the Georgia Davises. He's from Gainesville. A shot down to second base. Backman goes the quick way to Gardenhire. 1 run, 2 hits, and at the end of 7.5, the Mets 8 and the Cubs 3.
I never let those years in the spotlight go to my head. There are no stars on Potato Farm. Everybody's the same. I lived a simple life here. A really good life.
There's still a place where people don't forget where they came from. A place where beer is beer, and the brand is Miller.
Miller's made the American way.
Miller Beer. Purity you can see, quality you can taste.
Miller's made the American way.
The music, the fame, the women, the wife. Richard Thomas is a man trapped in the shadow of his father's legend. The Hank Williams Jr. story, Monday.
We're going to the bottom of the 8th inning with the Mets leading the Cubs 8-3, with this ball game being seen in and around the Chicago area. All of us here at NBC Sports would like to send along our condolences and deepest sympathies to Ray Meyer, the former coach of DePaul, his son Joey, Ray losing his wife Marge, and our prayers and best wishes. And the man will start it off. Gooden, Backman, and Dykstra in the bottom of the 8th inning, 8-3 Mets. Gooden hit into a force play, sacrificed, and will get a standing ovation. And deservedly so. He's 3 outs away from his 18th victory, his 12th straight. Strike. Ground ball to the right side. Ryan Sandberg to get him, 1 away. The Mets scored 2 in the 2nd inning, 1 in the 3rd, and 5 in the 7th. The Cubs had 2 in the 1st inning and 1 in the 8th. Wally Backman consuming a little time to let Dwight Gooden get back in the dugout.
Second baseman, Wally Backman.
Wally Backman hit 3 ground balls, and then in the 7th inning, with runners at 1st and 3rd and nobody out, dragged for a base hit up along 1st, and that scored a run, and boy, they were really off and running then.
Look how far back they're playing on the right side. He may drag another one.
Remember what we said, he is 14 for 29 when he bunts, but he swings away and hits a fly ball to Denier, fighting the sun. Boy, you had to be a pro to catch that one. Wow, his glasses were not that much help at all, watching him glisten.
Here's the Mets.
He's using glasses, glove, and he just keeps it right there. That ball ends up in that glove. That was a good play.
Excellent play by Bob Denier. He has the glasses and the grease on the cheekbones. He needed everything that he could take out there. Len Dykstra, who walked as a pinch hitter and then stayed in the game, punches one on the ground, and Boa will take care of him. A very quick 8th inning, but the horse is way down the road. At the end of 8, the Mets 8 and the Cubs 3.
Ladies and gentlemen, no one is permitted on the field at the end.
An American tradition continues. In 1978, it was dubbed the modern-day shot heard round the world. Bucky Dent's 3-run homer helped clinch one of baseball's greatest comeback seasons. Next Saturday, the intense rivalry continues as the Yankees host the Red Sox or the Royals meet the Blue Jays. The tradition is here. The memories are waiting.
A beautiful blue sky day here in New York, and thinking about blue skies, a couple of social notes in our NBC family. Neil Wright, our usual Chiron operator, getting married tomorrow to the lovely Kim Mogul. And come Tuesday, our producer George Finkel and his lovely wife Lynn will be celebrating their 25th wedding anniversary. To the 9th inning, 8-3 Mets. And Dwight Gooden trying to nail it down. Orozco and Leach back of him in the pen. And it'll be Spire, Boa, and a hitter for Brewster. 4-1. And now coming out on deck is Richie Hebner, and he will bat for Boa. So it's going to be Spire, Hebner, and then we will see about Brewster. Mets 8, Cubs 3. 9th inning. Ball 2. The Cardinals with a doubleheader on tap tonight in Philadelphia. Danny Cox and Jerry Koosman, Kurt Kepshire and Kevin Gross, the probable pitchers. The Mets, if and when they wrap this up, will technically lead by a game, and then it will depend upon what the Cardinals do. 2-1. Fastball lifted to straightaway and somewhat shallow center. Len Dykstra. 1 away. The Major League Baseball game of the week has been brought to you by Ford, who invites you to drive the new Ford Escort. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Mutual of Omaha, people you can count on. By Miller Beer. Miller made the American way since 1855. and by the STP Corporation. On the world's racetracks, on the world's roads, depend on STP, your car care company. Richie Hebner batting for Larry Boa, and Gary Matthews is on deck to hit for Warren Brewster. Foul back. Thad Bosley has been a very successful pinch hitter, and so has Richie Hebner. And there's Gary Matthews waiting his turn. Hebner leads the league with 11 pinch hit RBIs this year. High slicing fly ball. Foster a long way to go. He's just about there. 2 down, and Gary Matthews coming up. The executive producer of NBC Sports is Michael Weissman. The coordinating producer for NBC Baseball is Harry Coyle. The telecast of today's game of the week, produced by George Finkel, directed by Andy Rosenberg, pregame produced by Dave Hoffman, pregame directed by Mary Buta Lamusio, technical directors Stephen Cimino and Sal Nagita. So the Cubs are down to their last out. Gary Matthews hitting for Brewster. Ball 1. Matthews has not had much success against Gooden, but of course he has a lot of company. In his career, he's hitting just 174 against Dwight. Foul back. 1-1. Gooden is trying to win his 12th complete game and his 12th straight. '76 was the complete game year for Mets pitchers. Seaver had 13 that year. Matlack had 16. And Jerry Koosman, who's going to pitch tonight for Philadelphia, had 17 complete games in '76. 2-0. Fouled away. 2-1. Boy, it's some feeling, isn't it, when a great pitcher suddenly lets you know the game is his.
It's a great feeling if you're on his side.
Yeah.
I tell you, when he comes down the stretch, he doesn't look at that bullpen. He just goes right to the whip. Listen to the crowd.
They're up for him now. 2-1 to Gary Matthews. Curveball. Oh, what a pitch to end the game. 9 strikeouts. Could we see that again, or have we run out of time? Oh, what a way with the crowd roaring. You'd expect the adrenaline pumping, that he would come with the bullet, and instead the big, slow jug. Strike 3 called.
And you can see Gary Matthews just back off the pitch. Watch him bail out, and you can hardly blame him for that. Here it comes in slow motion. Look at him bail out, and goodbye, Gary and Cubs.
8-3 Mets. We'll be back with the totals and some added comment after this. A reminder tomorrow, 4:30 Eastern Daylight Time, 3:30 in Los Angeles on NBC Sports World, the great communicators of sports. We can also communicate this message. This week's NBC Light Beer from Miller Player of the Game is Dr. K. Dwight Gooden. Light Beer from Miller happy to present a check for $1,000 in the name of Dwight Gooden to help fight multiple sclerosis. Boy, what a number he did on the Cubs today.
Yes, he did. He only made 127 pitches with all the strikeouts that he had. He had 9 strikeouts. His top speed of the day was 94 miles an hour, but it's the curveball they'll be talking about.
And he did not walk a hitter. We'll be back. Don't forget next week, the Red Sox visiting Yankee Stadium, or in some areas, Kansas City at Toronto, all on NBC Sports. Dwight Gooden and the Mets beat the Cubs 8-3. For Joe Garagiola, this is Vin Scully wishing you a pleasant good afternoon from Shea Stadium in New York.
A promotional fee has been paid to NBC by United Airlines. You're not just flying, you're flying the friendly skies.
This has been a presentation of NBC Sports, the leader in innovative sports television.
The Man of Steel meets Saturday Night Live.
They wouldn't let me come out here and make a fool of myself.
And musical guest Santana.
Let's all be there.
Mets
Third inning, Strawberry again, this time with nobody on. Mets lead 4-zip, number 14 for Darrell. He was intentionally walked in his next at-bat. And then in the 7th, again, nobody on. And this is third of the game, number 15 on the season. And then Darrell had a shot at tying a Major League record, his final at-bat. Instead, he ripped a single. Len Berman in Chicago talked with Darrell about his big day.
It was a great day, Len. I really felt good at the plate. I was so relaxed. After I hit the first home run, I was real confident that I was going to have a good day.
The entire team headed to Montreal except for Ray Knight, who had permission to spend the night in Chicago with his wife, Nancy Lopez. There weren't too many happy faces around.
You know, there's been some bad news from New York, and everybody's kind of down about it. And I was optimistic. I thought we'd settle it. You know, I still, have hope to settle it. But after the statement from McPhail, I don't have much hope.
Any thoughts about being a first-place ball club heading to Montreal?
It doesn't do me much good to think about it, because if we're not playing tomorrow, the season could be over.
And as the ballpark empties out, we don't know when it will fill up again, but at least Mets fans will have the memory of Darryl Strawberry's 3 home runs to carry them along. I'm Len Berman at Wrigley Field, Chicago.
Thank you, Len. And Al, as you pointed out moments ago, Strawberry, the 4th player in Met history to hit 3 home runs in a game. The previous 3, Claudell Washington, right. Dave Kingman, Jim Hickman.
You got it.
Unbelievable. Yeah. In St. Louis tonight, Cardinals lost to the Phillies 9-1, so the Mets could conclude this 85 season in first by a half game. Ozzie Virgil banking 2 home runs. This 2-run shot, a big one. It gave the Phils a 5-1 lead. Now, in lieu of the Mets perhaps clinching the pennant tonight as a public service, here is our special Mets pennant celebration by way of a related celebration back in 1969. This is the way it might have been this season, rather than the Mets just quietly moving on to Montreal with the hope they'll be playing baseball tomorrow. Elsewhere.
You know, one of the best things about being an ex-big leaguer is getting freebies to the game. Call the front office, bingo. And once these fans recognize me, I probably won't even have to pay for my light beer from Miller. Down it! I love them. These fans know I drink light because it's less filling and it tastes great. Good seats, huh?
You're in the wrong seat, buddy. Come on.
Oh, I must be in the front row.
Come on.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Good seats, eh, buddy? He missed the tag! He missed the tag!